Welcome to the Ignorance is Strength podcast. I'm your host, Fabian motherfucking Ojeda, and I don't know shit, but that's okay. All right. Let's get this shit started. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Ignorance is Strength podcast. Hope you all enjoyed episode number 65 with the legendary pro wrestler Barry Horowitz. Let's see if he, can finagle his way into the Hall of Fame there. But we're back today with a brand new guest, really interesting topic. And she is the host of Wake Up with KC. I want to welcome to the podcast, Kimberly Chapman. How are you doing today, Kimberly?
It's a pleasure to be here with you, Fabian. Thank you for having me.
Definitely, yeah. And we were speaking a little bit before, press record, and I told you, the less I know about the topic, the better. And I really mean that, because every time, I jump into something that's brand new to me, it seems to be the most interesting, So I'm definitely interested in getting the conversation rolling right now, because you are a transformational life coach, right? And even just from the title there, I have no idea what that means. It could mean a number of things, but what is a transformational life coach?
Well, it's recognizing, everyone has been through, experienced, or is experiencing some form of abuse. And there's many forms of abuse that leads to limited beliefs, mental programming, even emotional energetic traumas. So what I've discovered through my own journey from the abuses that I've experienced, how it affected my mindset, created limited beliefs, and then those beliefs and programmings from my upbringing, is that a key to why we still struggle today? So I go through the process just by educating and informing based by my own experience, what I realized, what I discovered, and how I changed. So then the change comes, it's a transformation. It's like letting that old self, the old beliefs, the programmings go and become a new and better version of yourself. So you can live your best life now. I think humanity wasn't supposed to exist the way it is.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the way everybody is today. I see history repeating itself. It's just a different timeline. And it's like, when are we going to wake up? Like, that didn't work before. Mm-hmm. Why are we still replaying this, scene over and over?
Are you referring to kind of like the negativity out there and,
yep.
People being, especially in the U.S. where people are so polarized and everything, they're either picking one side or another. And to me, it's ridiculous, because we're backing color politicians, like we're choosing them like if there are football teams, or even deeper, like if there are religions, and we're kind of waging war based off of who's red or who's blue.
I agree with you, Fabian, and that's what astounds me is like, why are we? How did we get to this point? Mm-hmm. And it's like you got to get to the root of the problem, just like with your own self. Why do I struggle with money, relationships, things like that? It's going back in time to find, oh, this is where it started. This is where it began. Okay, how do we change this for the better? Mm-hmm. And I have a philosophy that I go by. If it's not a win-win for both parties, then it's not a good idea. Mm. No one is superior than the other or better than the other. We are all connected and we're divine beings. Mm-hmm. And that's the beauty of it.
Right.
And everyone has their own uniqueness.
Mm-hmm. So the people that you work with, right? How do you go about identifying, or do they come to you? How do you start working with somebody and getting that transformation going?
Well, I started my podcast because I really didn't want, I mean, there's plenty of other coaches out there, you know, and I went through some of their, you know, online courses because I wanted to educate myself. I wanted to learn, how can I change? You know, there's something I'm still struggling with, but I can't quite pinpoint, you know, what it is. You know, okay, yeah, mindset. I got to change the way I think, change the way I feel. Well, how do I go about doing that? What, you know, what's the process to where I want to get to my vision, my goal, whatever it is. So I sat and thought, and I was like, well, I want to do something different. I don't, you know, I used to do one-on-one, and I would do some spiritual readings and intuitive stuff. And I just like, I don't want to be like everybody else. I want to do it my way and in such a way that it does make a difference and an impact. And I thought of, why not go back to school, brush your skills up in podcasting? My dream was to always have a talk show about transformation, you know, getting other people, experts in history, science, spirituality, you know, people that understand about the misconceptions about who we are, the misconceptions about love, sex, and money. So I wanted it to be just virtual to where anybody can get some valuable information. They'll just listen to it, resonate with it, and then it helps them change the way they think, the way they feel.
Right. Now, you know, if I look at just the word coach, right, you know, you think a lot of the times of like sports teams and whatnot, right? And so I coached wrestling for a brief period. And the reason why was because I got so much out of the sport, and, you know, I wanted to give back. Right. And it was a different kind of, you know, feeling from being the competitor to being the coach. Right. So you being a transformational life coach, you must have experienced something early on that said like, hey, I want to give back. Right. So what was kind of your, you know, moment, your eureka moment where you're like, you know, hey, I need to change something up. I need to transform and I need to make a change.
Well, here's the thing. It's like, how can you help others when you're still struggling yourself? You know, you got to help yourself first and overcome several things before you can help others, because you're not going to be of service to others if you're still struggling. You know, and so it started actually like not sort of contemplating, but like trying to figure out how to go about it. What is the next step? You know, it is a process. It's not like we go to McDonald's drive-thru and bam, there you go. You know, it does take time. And I started my own talk show. I went to school at Connecticut School of Broadcasting here in South Florida. And this was like 2010, 2011. And I started having guests. I did my own intros, the whole 9 yards. And I was a one-man show. But then I went through a divorce, became a single mom, had to put it on the back burner.
Right.
But I knew there was a connection. Like, okay, at least I started. I took action. I felt passionate about it. But then I was wondering, well, maybe it wasn't, the timing wasn't right. Put it on the back burner for now. Don't lose that vision that you had or that passion that I had when I was doing that. Just put it on the back burner. You got to do these things now. You're a single mom. You got to have a job to support yourself and your kids. And then last year, during the pandemic, I did a reevaluation. I'm like, okay, I'm done with these jobs. It's not what there's reasons why, obstacles that I'm experiencing with these jobs that aren't panning out, there's something more to this than what's really going on. And it's going inward because we're all intuitive. We have a connection to a greater source. So if you practice doing that, you make better decisions. So I did go back to school during the pandemic, and I graduated and I started a podcast. And then it opened up to me doing virtual talk shows. I was like, wow, that's interesting. I could save a lot of money just doing it virtual. And that's where it began. And it just keeps going. And I love it. When you do something that you love, you're not really working.
Right. Yeah. And so it seems like, like the end goal is to like find your passion. Right. And maybe not like, that's it. Right. You find your passion and that's it, because there's always more to do. But it seems, I guess, let me rephrase that. It seems like step one is to reignite your passion. Right. Because a lot of people do, kind of just succumb to, hey, this is everyday life and I got to give up what I like to do because I have to make money, or I have to fit into what everybody else wants me to do. I think a lot of people can relate, and I see that a lot in young people. I saw that in myself. I didn't want to, finish school. I stopped even, participating in my favorite sport, wrestling, because I wanted to make money. And I remember just working literally probably over 500 days in a row as a nightclub bouncer, and I'm like, well, I'm making money, but I'm like, this kind of sucks,
Well, the thing is, that's part of the limited belief and the mental programming. We've all been taught, if you look back in history, go to school, get good grades, get a good job. You cannot do that in this day and time. It doesn't work. So that is one of those programmings that I talk about. It's like, you can't do that. And a great book that made me realize this was Rich Dad Poor Dad from Robert Kiyosaki. He goes over, the poor teach the poor to be poor. The middle class teach the middle class to be middle class, and the rich teach the rich to be rich. Right. Which category do you fall under? I went, whoa. I'm not sure, because growing up, I think my parents were poor or borderline middle class. I'm not quite too sure, but I don't want to live that life. I want to live to be like rich, abundant, doing the things I love doing. Not work and have somebody control how much I make, when I could take time off, or control how long, how many times or how many hours I need to work. That didn't rub me the right way. So yes, I had to get a job, go to work, but I was always thinking about, this is one day I want to do this. I didn't even find out my passion, Fabian, until I was in my 40s when I went to Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Oh. So, I mean, the rest of the time you must have just been feeling like, what am I doing?
Well, yes. And then, I've had 2 divorces. They were both abusive. And I kept saying to myself, is this all there is to life? Because I don't want to be here then. If this is it, this is not, and, I read a good book. It's like, oh, you're supposed to be abundant. You're supposed to be prosperous. And I'm like, standing from where I'm standing, I'm not seeing any of that. There's something wrong with this picture. And if the grass is greener on the other side where I'm standing, I'm going to go. And that started my journey of, discovering, like, who are we? Why are we here? And then individually, like, who am I and why am I here? What's my purpose? And I think everybody sort of thinks about that, but they stay stuck.
Yeah.
And then they stay stuck in, I've been through many forms of abuse. I overcame it. I decided I'm not going to put up with this shit. And I had enough courage to get out.
Yeah.
And I learned in the process that doesn't work for me. I need to get out of this relationship.
Right.
Or this job is not fulfilling my needs. This job is not making me happy. Why do we put ourselves in these situations to be miserable and unhappy? Why can't we find situations and experiences that give us joy and passion, that motivate us to get up in the morning and go to it? It's these programs.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are kind of stuck in the same boat. You know, I see a lot of, and not to say that it's not men too, but I see this a lot in young girls where it's like they're, how do I put it? They're knowingly with a guy that cheats on them, you know, that treats them like crap, that makes them feel, you know, smaller than they are. Everybody sees it, you know, like, hey, your boyfriend's a piece of shit. You know, their families all tell them that, their friends all tell them that. They know it deep down, right? But they keep going back to the same guy. You know, it's like I've seen that more and more and more with young women. Or same thing, like you mentioned, people that keep the same, you know, job that they hate, right? They go back every single day, complain and whatnot. But I think it just, you know, it's a weird, like you said, conditioning, a weird human conditioning where it's like, well, in your head, you're thinking, well, maybe I should just hold on to it because I can't do any better, you know?
Yes, I've been there, Fabian. I thought that same thing, but then I had to change the way I thought. You know, what is your self-worth?
Right.
And the one thing that I do, like I'm getting ready to get some other guests on my show, is misconception about love. We're always looking outwards for love. We've been taught it's conditional love. Your parents, you know, taught you that. And then you got religion, then you got society as well. But honestly, you are love. Love is you. It's inside you, not outside in your environment or your circumstances or even with your partner. Whoever that may be, you are a divine being that has the essence of love inside you. If you tap into that and connect to that, it changes your whole outlook. It changes your personality. It changes the way you look at the world, that how you look at other people. And it changes your circumstances for even the better. And that is the most amazing experience. Once you experience that, you won't stay with the piece of shit boyfriend or girlfriend or whatnot. You'd be like, I don't need you. This is too good. And I want to keep going, and you're going to want more of it. It becomes almost like a drug when you have this experience. Your confidence soars. You bring your frequency and your vibrations up to attract more positive things into your life.
That's interesting. Yeah. Cause, you know, I'll kind of share a little bit, just, you know, cause you have a podcast, people know a lot about you as a host. You know, I don't mind a little bit of vulnerability, but, you know, I'm confident in most things. Right. And you know, I'll tell you when I'm great at something, and I'll tell you when I'm not. You know, I'm very open like that. I'll be like, yeah, no, I'm the greatest karaoke singer in the world. But at the same time, you know, I'll be like, don't ask me to be out on the dance floor because I'm terrible at that. But more, you know, but a little deeper than that, you know, kind of like you mentioned the whole like loving yourself thing. You know, a lot of people they always wonder like, oh, why are you single? Like, why have you been single for so long? Like, because you know, myself, I don't. It's not that I'm not confident. You know, like I know I've got qualities to, you know, offer and whatnot, and I can make something work. But I don't. The person that I am now, I don't want to present that to somebody and be like, here, this is who I am. You know, let's share some sort of, you know, life or whatever. And because I don't feel that I guess, you know, to really kind of pin it down, good enough for someone that, how do I even describe it? I guess I'm putting some imaginary person up on a pedestal, and it's like, you deserve the best. And to me, I'm looking at myself like, you're not your best yet. So that's where I'm at with that, I think, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And it is a mindset that you're working on. You're just changing the way you think.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing, the thought with the emotion and energy with that brings the result.
Mm.
So when you're thinking about something, how are you feeling when you think that thought? Does it make you feel good, or does it make you feel not so good?
Yeah, no, not so good.
That's what we got to pay attention to. Yeah. Pay attention to your thoughts. That's when you become consciously aware of what you're thinking. I know a good mentor, one of my mentors, Dr. Joe Dispenza. Then you got Greg Braden. You got Dr. Bruce Lipton. I'm always listening to little tidbits, little nuggets to help. It's like you're rewiring your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is like a computer program, and all what you see, what you hear, all your experiences gets programmed like a software, and it's in the hard drive in your mind. So it's peeling and like taking your computer, it winds up getting viruses. So you got to clean out those viruses and reboot and reprogram your whole computer, just like with your mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's so I guess that's where people like you come in, because that's really hard to do. Right? Like to kind of.
It's not as hard, but it's like when you wake up, like one little thing will wake you up, or a light bulb will go on moment. And that's how it usually starts happening. Then you start like looking at, okay, this ain't working, that's not working. So what can I do to make this work? And the one thing that I remember Dr. Joe Dispenza says, in his meditations is, how can I be the greatest expression of myself today?
Yeah, it's pretty heavy one right there.
But it's simple. It's like, what gives me bliss? Mm-hmm. What gives me passion, inspiration? It's a feeling, emotion. It's a state of being, and it's a state of abundance. That feeling, you're generating abundance just by feeling that. And in thinking about what gives you passion, thinking about what gives you joy, those two together shifts things inside you. It even changes the biochemistry in your body. If you're constantly stressed, your self-worth, your self-esteem is low, you're operating on a low vibration. And then all you're doing is attracting more bad situations, more of these things that are considered bad, but they're not really bad. It's just it's the habits from being in that state of being in, the abusive mindset and all of that. You're just staying stuck in your own program.
Yeah. So, it sounds like a lot of looking inward and in a way being spiritual. Sometimes when people look for transformation, though, they turn to religion, and I don't mind pissing people off a little bit here.
Let's talk. You just opened up the door for me.
But sometimes, I notice I'm like, it's more just brainwashing, like you sound like a robot afterwards, everything. And look, if it works for you, I guess, hey, it works for you. But I mean, for a lot of people, it doesn't work for them, but they're keeping up the facade, like, everything's in God's hands, but it's like, no, you still have to do you still have to do, put in some of that work.
I'm so glad you brought this up. There is a misconception about religion, man-made religion. And, it's been plagiarized from other writings from ancient civilizations that are on tablets. They just copied that information, twisted it around, and created their own story. There isn't Holy Spirit filled. We're all spiritual beings. We're sexual beings and human beings. And from the beginning, or let's create man in our image, that is was written 95,000 years ago. How long has the Torah, Quran, and the Holy Bible been around? It's not a Holy Bible, it's just a freaking book. And there is some writings that have, like, I'm still researching, and what I'm finding out is fascinating to me. And then I'm like, wow, this has been going on. It's like history repeating itself.
Mm-hmm.
And religion is the biggest murderer in history. 80 million people have been persecuted, burned in history because of religion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I don't believe in your God. We are all gods. We have this free will to choose and behave and do whatever it is. I rather choose love and peace, but because there's narcissism, control, greed, manipulation, if you go back in history, you'll find that even in religion.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, you see it all the time when, certain people in religion get, a certain amount of power. They're over there, touching the little boys and, keeping all the money for themselves, building
It's a
mega
business.
churches. Yeah.
To get money from you, to pay for their building, electricity, their cars, their lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
That's
right.
really it. And they don't even understand the Bible themselves. They interpret it what they think is. But if you go and look at the cuneiform writings that are on these tablets, it's the same information. And this has been longer. These writings have been longer. And now it's been translated. And then you look and compare. Oh my God, this happened this long ago, but then in the Bible it says this. I'm like, there's some misconception and misunderstanding about that book.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the Quran and the Torah.
Now, you're in the South, so that's pretty heavy. The Bible Belt area there, right?
Oh yeah.
How do people, I don't know if you share these, these thoughts when working with them, but how do people react to the, your thoughts on religion and the Bible and whatnot, or do you even share that?
I'm now sharing it on my podcast, and now I'm at the point. I don't care. I'm going to tell you the truth based on history and facts. Mm-hmm. Because we're so small-minded, and it's a program. You're raised in whatever religion because your parents. Mm-hmm. You don't. If you question your parents, I've questioned things about the Bible no one can give me an answer to. So I'm like, well, why should I believe you then? That's how it really did not sit well with me. But it was like, keep your mouth shut. Don't, it was respect your elders, honor and obey your parents. If they knew about the commandments, the truth about that, it wasn't written. There's really no such thing as the commandments. It was created by man. And if you understand about what was going on in those timelines, and even in the Bible, there were gods supposedly who came from the sky. They were really extraterrestrial beings that came from the sky. Everyone thought they were gods coming from the heaven. You have to put yourself back in those times to say, wait a minute, if I saw that, knowing what I know now, I would probably think it was a god. You have to question things. Just don't take it as this is the truth. Well, question it.
So you're, because this is just fascinating to me. You're saying that it's more than likely at that point was like aliens?
Yes, Anunnaki pantheons. Look it up. Do your research. There's writings about them from Sumerian writings as well, because it started in the Far East. There's so much history. And granted, I haven't been out. I've never been out of the country of the United States. I've always been fascinated with what it was like in the Egyptian pyramids. There's so much more information about that. Then you got Greece, with Zeus and, all of them. There's connections that I'm just connecting the dots. I ask a question. I question everything. So when I first ask that question, it's like truth comes to me. And then I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. Well, what about da, 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 da? It's another question. That's how it all starts. When you start asking a question and then questioning everything, you get to the truth. Because deep down, the truth is inside you.
Well, I mean,
waiting to be discovered by you.
I can actually see the Greek and alien connection because each Greek god is named after a planet, or sorry, each planet is named after a Greek god, right? And when you transfer that to like the Roman gods too, they're more even closer to the name of each planet. So it's kind of interesting tie in there.
And not only that, these Anunnaki pantheons, there was 300 to over 1,000 gods. They came from Nibiru, a planet, stationed themselves in different parts, okay, because they wanted primitive workers. So guess what? They got whoever was here on this planet, their DNA, mixed it up in their DNA, and voila, there you go, a human being. A Homo sapien.
Yeah, like I said,
they wanted the gold from this planet. So they created human beings to produce the gold. So we're already slaves. Our ancestors from the beginning were slaves. See, and look how history kept repeating itself. Now it's a different form of slavery to me, becoming an employee. Debit card debt is a form of slavery too.
Yeah, I mean,
I can go on about this stuff. It's just, this is what sparks my passion to get people to wake up. Like, hello.
I was gonna say, I'm glad we went down this path because you probably just earned yourself some new podcast listeners there. Because like I said, the less I know about a subject and the more you're willing to kind of just take it on, I think it's a lot more interesting of a listen because I could sit here and be like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about, and then kind of just elaborate on it. But none of this stuff I've ever really heard about, so it's all new to me.
And here's another thing, Fabian, you go into that Bible and you hear that the Lord God said to go over into this and kidnap these children, rape the women, and take these virgins as your wives, and then go and get these children as slaves. What kind of God does that anyway? It was who was ever reigning in that certain area, because there was what? Greed, power, conquer, and divide. Hello, does that ring a bell?
Yeah, the kings did think they were divine, so they were like an extension of God in their eyes, or the second, third, fourth, fifth coming, whatever,
Yeah, and then religion says, oh, well, God says we're the chosen people. No. Then you hear the contradiction about God loves all his children. Oh, but however, we're those that are saved are going to go to heaven. I call bullshit on that. If God loves, and we are all gods, God loves everybody. It doesn't matter what race, what color, what gender you are a God. And it's very hypocritical. And then you look at how judgmental the religion is. I'm like, wow, really? It's almost being two-faced and a false identity of who you are. And it's sad. It really is sad. It doesn't have to be like this. It can change once we wake up and realize the divine beings that we are.
Mhm.
And the love that's already inside that, you won't need religion. You won't need any of this stuff that keeps passing down and passing down. It's like that hamster that's in that wheel doesn't know when to get off or just stay there. Were you going to be that hamster that says, you know what, I'm done, let's get off?
Right. And
that's the definition of insanity. You keep doing the same thing over and over, but expect different results.
Mhm. Definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, again, I if this is what you put out there on your podcast, and hope people will check it out, definitely, whether they agree or disagree with you, definitely good, to hear out, your side. Changing gears just a little bit, I was kind of curious because, with the whole transformational life coach thing, I wonder if it's mostly like, adults in their maybe, 20s, 30s, 40s that, seek your help, or if you've had even younger people, because a lot of kids these days, even, and I say this working with high school kids, they seem to be, in their head, they're a big mess. You know what I mean? Like their pressure and stress levels are through the roof, because I've worked at high schools and everything for the last, for most of the last decade. And I've seen, how do I put it? The ones that need mental help and mental health services and all that stuff has risen like dramatically. I would say exponentially, because before you wouldn't really see a student have to be taken out by a crisis team, maybe once a year, maybe less than that, but I remember working at a school where literally every day of the week, there was a different kid that had to be, taken by the county by a crisis team in a small school at that, and I was just like, what is going on here? They just feel like they have to fit into this box. And they're just so overwhelmed that they don't want to deal with it anymore. So I guess my question is, have you worked with any younger people?
Yes, I have worked with, teenagers. I have daughters, and their teenager friends come to me for spiritual reading, guidance, and I listen. And I'm like, okay, then let's look at it in a different perspective then. And they are they're overstimulated. Okay. But there is something more to these high schoolers but they add on to their social media and then the video gaming and, all these electronic devices and whatnot. We weren't created to be overstimulated like we have been. You got to set boundaries of, for a couple of hours, take a break, shut everything off, at a certain time. It takes discipline, but it can help shift because they're putting in too much information into their mind. And that's where confusion comes in. That's where, all this stuff is starting to happen to them. And they're here for a greater purpose as well. Every generation comes together collectively to come here to make a difference for humanity and our planet. And I so wholeheartedly believe that. And this younger generation is really, it's like there's a war going on within them because of that, what's going on in the outer world, and they struggle. And they don't know how to communicate. They don't know where to go to get. You can't get that kind of help in religion. In a lot of the, there are some counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists, and whatnot. It's if they knew about the spiritual aspects, because some people go through a spiritual awakening that's my daughter went through one, and it brought on a car accident and psychosis, not one but two in 1 month, and she had to be Baker acted twice. And that is one of the most horrific experiences that I've experienced. And it was very heart-wrenching because I was seeing my daughter, not herself, and suffering. And I couldn't even tap into what in the world is going on with that precious mind of yours. This is not you. I know. And it just that one, she dealt with anxiety, depression, chronic pain, and it just, that car accident, it was like a bomb went off and she just wasn't the same. And I had to get her Baker acted. Then we had to go to a mental facility to get her on some form of medication. Did I really want that for my daughter? Oh, hell no. I don't want her to be on drugs for the rest of her life or some kind of form of prescription. Either did she. She's not a drug person. You know, she had a medical marijuana card to help her with her anxiety and sleep and whatnot. But that wasn't working anymore. Going through that experience, it made me realize that maybe do research on medication, you know, the side effects, long-term use, how addictive is it? Can it be temporary? Can they wean themselves off once they get that connection back to some kind of normalcy, some kind of balance in their mind and whatnot? And so far we switched a medication because the other one wasn't working. She was constantly like feeling depressed, feeling no motivation, doesn't want to do anything. Well, she stopped taking that one, got on this one. Now she's more uppity. I'm like, okay, let's just keep the balance until, you know, you get things situated and back on track. It's temporary. And I do positive reinforcements with my kids. And that helps.
Okay.
You know, it's always be a positive. I don't belittle my kids. I don't tell them they're stupid or anything like that. I question them on why they think the way they think. Why is that? Why would you think that? Why not think this way? What about this scenario? What about this experience?
Right.
So I encourage young adults, if there's a young adult, a high schooler that would just like, you know, honesty and a form of truth, because the truth is in you. I just am the other aspect of helping you realize that truth and offer possibly truth, but it has to resonate with you. And I can help them figure that out. I mean, they can contact me. I got an email address. It's wakeupwithkc@gmail.com. If there's anybody that is struggling in some aspect, you know, I'm not a physician, but I can guide you to the right resources to help you and realize something about yourself that you never knew about.
Right. All right. So, you know, you put your email address out there. What's your Instagram so people could find you on there?
Wake Up with KC.
Yeah, I noticed too you're a bit of a foodie on there.
Yes, I love food. I've been in the restaurant business prior because always my backup plan. I was a massage therapist, but I had to retire from that. So I'd always go back to the hospitality. And I just love food. If it looks good on that table when you present it to me, like too good, like you're like, I don't know if I really want to eat it, but it looks so good. I want to take a picture of it.
Yeah.
And I'll brag about the restaurant where I was and say, you guys got to try this dish. This is, mouthwatering, delicious.
I think I saw some sushi on there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, see, I love food too. I love to cook, and so I got my own little side barbecue hustle, you know. So I'm really big on ribs and tri-tip and things like that. But other than that, I make a really good, and you'll appreciate this being from the South, a really good jambalaya.
Ah,
Yeah.
well, I have some insight to share with you, and it does have to do with mental health as well. And it's the food we eat.
Huh.
Gluten, dairy, sugar. What you eat, you're trying to nourish the body, but it also is to nourish your mind as well. And we've been so programmed about one fast food, and then you look at how dairy has changed, all the gluten that's in every food. I had a guest on my show that went to a dietitian nutritionist because of her son was experiencing symptoms, and this dietitian nutritionist said cut out gluten and dairy and sugar for 30 days and see how he does. What a major difference. And after that 30 days, that son went to his mom, to my guest, who's the mother, said, do we have to stop? Because I really feel better. And a lot of people don't realize their body's reacting to gluten. It's like a gluten allergic reaction. It affects your body differently. It messes with your digestive system. It does have a connection in the your mental state as well. So I've been on a journey since my daughter's, mental breakdown and whatnot, going on a journey of there's got to be something to this. So I encourage, what are you eating? Is it good for your body? Is it, is there a different way you could do it without the gluten, without the dairy? Is there other alternatives to where you can still enjoy? You're just tweaking it for it to be a little healthier for you.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I could definitely look into that. I don't know if I could ever, somebody told me like, try going vegan for the 30 days. I'm like, I don't think that can happen. But, I'm willing to try other things.
But I mean, like now coming from the South, I was a sweet tea drinker. My mama, my Nana made that sweet tea. Mm-hmm. Most of my childhood life until 3-4 years ago, all of a sudden I paid attention to my body. And I was just like, I just can't do that anymore. Your body tries to communicate with you. Headaches is a communication, something's going on with your body. Your body's not right. There's something off balance. Then I stopped the sugar in my coffee. I stopped with the dairy in my coffee. I got a non-dairy creamer. Mm-hmm. Has a vanilla taste. I think I got a creme brulee. And I just cut a lot of sugar, and I try very hard. Nothing gluten. It just takes practice, but once you pay attention to what your body's trying to tell you, and then you start little by little eliminating, you don't do it cold turkey. You'll put your body into shock. But just little things on a day-to-day basis change, and then you start seeing a difference. You're not as tired. You have a little bit more energy, and you start feeling healthier.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that hard these days anymore because they make the products, they label them gluten-free now, I think
it's the green line with the gluten-free. It's just, you got to know what to look for, and there's resources out there to guide you. Like, hey, pay attention. It might say gluten-free, but if they have this ingredient, it's not.
I see.
It's just becoming aware. Educate yourself. Research.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's as much as you want to get into it and research it, right? Like anything else. Mm-hmm. Anything else you want to throw out there to the podcast world before we close out, or anything else you want to promote or plug?
Well, I am on close to my 50th episode.
Okay.
I got over 500 downloads. I'm in 20 different countries. Mm-hmm. I got my first award.
Nice.
27th Annual Communication Award in Distinction in Audio Podcasting. I'm about to expand it. I'm going to be, now you guys got the first dibs. Spoiler alert kind of thing. To expand it to add more days instead of Monday. Because right now I'm just on Monday mornings, but I'm booked in interviews with these guests because I like intellectual conversations on different aspects.
Right.
You know, to help people understand, you know, and bring in a little bit of history based on who the person is and whatnot, what it's like in their industry, you know, based on my knowledge on history in that whatever industry, just connecting with that and how it's just interesting conversations that I have. So I'm going to expand it.
Do you go live or is it recorded too?
It's recorded because that gives me time to, one, promote,
right,
and two, if there's any editing that needs to be done, it's little small edits, then I have the opportunity, and I want to make it, you know, appealing and good for my audiences because I want them to get valuable information. If there's somebody that can help them, or just even through the conversation, something hits them to help them. That's it.
Yeah, for sure. Always got to put that final polish and shine on the product too. So that's why I like to edit too. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate it. You know, definitely. I'm glad you brought out the passionate side there, and you know, I think people will enjoy that. I know I'll get some feedback for sure. But we'll make sure to, you know, throw the tag out there on Instagram so people go ahead and check out Waking Up with KC.
I have a website as well. It is clovercrestmediagroup.com/Wake Up with KC. I have my webpage, my Facebook, Instagram. I got some YouTube interviews that I've done. There's my bio. So you can get all that information on that website. And I'll send you the link as well.
For sure. Yeah, nice. So that one-stop shop is a website for sure.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So I hope everybody will check that out. For everybody listening at home, I appreciate it. Thank you. Fuck you and good night.
Subscribe to the Ignorance is Strength podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Like, follow, and share on Facebook and Instagram at Ignorance is Strength Podcast and on Twitter at The Ignorance Pod.